Hi, this is Michael Waits recording live from Money 2020 Asia 2025 in Bangkok. Thank you for joining us for this special edition of Insurance for the New Possible, where we discuss the future of finance, technology, and insurance. We are joined today by Chetaphan Siridanupath, a managing director at KBTG, a technology subsidiary of KBank.
That's correct.
Thank you so much for joining us today at Money 2020 in Asia.
Thanks for having me.
It's my complete pleasure. And thanks for coming to Insurance for the New Possible. Let's jump right into this, okay?
Okay.
Thailand has one of the most advanced mobile banking ecosystems in the world. And I don't say it lightly because I live here and I use it every day. And I've been to other places, so I know the difference. But what enabled KBank to lead the first wave of innovation and what keeps it ahead today?
Okay. I think you talk about first wave, I think we go back like 8-10 years ago, right?
Yep.
I think we made as a bank, we made a couple of big strategic direction correct. One being going into mobile banking like early on.
Okay.
You know, if you're thinking like 10 years ago, people were still like, separating between like internet banking, you're still on your laptop.
Yeah.
But we made a choice to make a big push into mobile. We kind of saw the smartphone wave early on. That's definitely. And then we make a right strategic direction to build in-house capability early on comparing to competitors. You think about it, the 10 years ago, people, of course, the banks mostly, sort of outsourcing the technologies, design part outsource, right? And we think that, by having a in-house capability, it makes, product turnaround much faster. And that's what keeps us here today.
So what do you think led KBank to make this decision to move to mobile before everybody else did, right? Because everybody was sitting in the same market that you or looking around. Everybody probably had an iPhone or an Android phone back then. If it's only 8 to 10 years ago, what was different about the way you guys were thinking about this?
When we talk about digital banking, we don't look at consumer trends just from the banking perspective, but from the wider sort of internet and digital lifestyle as well, right? And I remember like 10 years ago, you were still using Facebook both on laptop and on mobile, right?
That's the exact example I was going to give. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then we start seeing a shift early on. Like people start, and of course there are multiple factors as well. Internet, the mobile data starts coming cheaper, device starts coming cheaper, and people start using, smartphone and mobile internet on a day-to-day basis. Like, it's like it's becoming a norm rather than a trend, basically.
So the example I was going to use was Facebook as well. And I remember when Facebook started noticing that people were using less and less on their laptops. I was going to say online, but they got so scared that they actually launched their own phone. Right. So they were really nervous that people weren't going to use Facebook on mobile because it didn't exist. All they had on there was a website, and they had to redo everything at the company. And it's interesting that at the same time, you guys were having the same insight. I think it's super interesting, right?
I'm sure it was not an easy decision.
No. And I'm sure it wasn't an easy decision for you guys either. Talk to me about this. When we were prepping, you said that at KBTG, the goal was not just digital transformation. It was a bigger push for innovation.
Yeah.
What's the difference? And why does it matter?
Yeah, I think innovation has always been a big push for us, right? When I talk about digital transformation, I think innovation is a part of it as well. But for example, I told you we have a Care Plus, which is like #1 mobile application in Thailand. As part of KBTG role, we also, drive that digital transformation and digital banking features development as well. But at the same time, we had a sort of idea that what if we have a separate challenger in-house application to that is like, brand new look and feel, brand new segment, tapping the younger generation. So the way I think of it is like, incremental innovation / digital transformation and, like first principle, brand new innovation. So we kind of run the both track parallel.
So do you follow, and I'm sure you do, right? But do you think about what companies like Apple do when they take their iPod business? This is again, like almost 10 years ago, and just say, we're just going to turn that into a piece of software. We're just going to destroy that part of our physical business, which is one of the businesses that makes most of our money, and just say, don't care. We're going to take that and turn it into an app. Is that what you're talking about when you talk about innovation?
Yes, and trust me, it was not an easy decision or like it was a lot of discussion, right? And your support from all the way from the top, from the CEO and the board was very important in this. You need to not afraid to cannibalize your own, businesses.
So you lived overseas for a while, you told me.
Yes, quite a while.
Do you think some of the experience that you got overseas, some of the business experience you got, some of the thought processes were helpful when you came back to be able to say, there may be another way to do this. Notice I didn't say a better way. I just said another way.
Right. Actually, surprisingly, I would say not directly on what I do today, because of in terms of the way of work, because I was in financial technology as well, right?
Right.
The way engineering practice is done in financial business, the global bank practice, I kind of had that experience. But in terms of the digital consumer trend, I am thinking Thailand is like way ahead in many countries that I've lived before as well, to be honest with you.
So talk to me. So I don't disagree with you. And I don't know if we said this on our prep call, but I've lived in Thailand now for almost 15 years.
Oh.
Yeah.
Then you must have seen it all, right?
Since the end of 2011. No, but I always have to explain to people, because I get made fun of by people that live outside the country, like, oh, your internet connection must be bad.
No.
And there's no 5G and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I have megabit Ethernet at home.
Yep.
Right.
And cheap as well.
And
cheap, stable.
I wouldn't say cheap, but I'd say it's a fair price, right? In other words, what somebody pays in New York for like 30 megabytes up and down, I get 300 times that for half the price. Okay.
Yeah.
Or maybe for the same price. So for me, this leapfrogging in the technological space to me is not shocking at all. But I wonder why you think it's so far ahead of other places.
I think part of it, the infrastructure helps a lot, as you say, the internet, but also the consumer, the willingness for consumer to adopt new things.
Yeah.
You talk about social commerce, you talk about like digital payment, you talk about like food delivery. We've seen it in many waves, right? And a lot of time it's consumers' behavior that drive the innovation, not the technology.
Right.
For example, I'll give you an example. Many years ago, Thai people doesn't have like many credit cards, right? And then the way they conduct commerce over social. So what are the best way to actually send money to another people through, I don't know, like line messaging? Is to use mobile banking and then attach the payment slip to the person, right? So that's one of the like big driving factor for the success of mobile payments. And then after that, there's a lot of change in consumers' behavior, like e-commerce platforms starting to boom, like Shopee, Lazada, and then the bank adapt itself by partnering with those platforms, and then have the mobile banking as a very seamless payment option on those platforms, which is quite a unique experience comparing to the West world as well.
Yeah, I mean, one of my friends that used to live in Thailand moved to the United States with her husband. Nominally a much more advanced technological country. Nominally. But when she got there, she said a lot of the things she had to do sort of administratively when she first got there required her to write a check.
Yeah.
She's never had a checkbook.
Yeah.
So it seemed really backwards.
Yeah, it's leapfrogging, as you say.
Completely.
I think we went from going to branch and open account to straight to eKYC and mobile banking. You just skip through those checkbook. A lot of people just skip through the ATM card or even debit card as well.
Can I ask you this? So KBank appears to have built a full innovation pipeline, right? Like it's not just one team doing one thing, from K Labs to KXVC. How does that, what does that pipeline allow KBank to do that maybe other banks who haven't set up that same pipeline to do?
Okay, I think by having the whole pipeline from ideation, from labs to actually commercializing unit, I think it helps us have I would say a space to try and fail at things. So if you think about innovation in terms of you have to make money, you have to break even from day one,
right?
And with no lab mentality, it's very hard. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of innovations that we built before it succeed, like tens of them fail. And it's okay because they failed at the labs. The lab people, start innovating on something else. But once one of the products sort of gain traction, then we sort of graduated from the lab mode into venture business and start build the business around it. So that's how we approach it.
The lab is actually, I like the way you say this. The lab company, the lab business can actually build 10, 15, 20 things. All of them can fail.
Yeah, we do.
All of them
even
can
today.
fail.
Even today.
Yeah. And the great thing about that is that the people inside know that, so they can try radically different things. And if they fail, they don't get fired. They're like, that was a good try. But maybe you can take a component of that and put it in something else, and then it turns into a success, right?
Yep. Another sort of benefits that having the whole pipeline, not just the lab, but the KBank, our parent company, right? Of course, as the first customers to kind of internal, I would say like dog food or pilot
I get
our
it.
technology to make sure that, for example, we have our own in-house eKYC and facial technology, the whole eKYC suite that we built in-house, right? Of course, the first use case was the bank, right? And then once we test and try with 20 plus million customers of the bank, we ensure that our OCR technology, our face liveness technology, everything is like up to the standard that is required by the Bank of Thailand. Then we're confident that if it works for the number one digital bank in Thailand, we might as well can build business around it and sell it to other.
So do you do that as well?
We do.
Oh, that's interesting. So you white label to other businesses as well.
Yes.
That's really interesting. So the KPTG business is almost like a separate business in a way.
Yep.
With a first customer as KBank always. Yeah?
Yes. That's another model that we work on.
That's super cool. So how do you know when something's in the lab or in the VC? How do you know when you move from we're experimenting to try to commercialize it? Like, what are the signals you get? How do you know?
Okay. That's a difficult question.
I know, because it's different for every time. But like, what are you looking for?
So we tend to approach the innovation as like internal startup, you may say, right? So first of all, leading indicators like customer traction, engagement. So basically, we treat it as startup, right? You go from product market fit, problem solution fit to product market fit, and then the business model fit. So once we, for example, I take Make by KBank, I told you before as example. Once we reach like certain scalable customer base, we start seeing some key metrics like very high retention, very high engagement, very strong NPS score. People are willing to
Are you measuring NPS internally?
We do.
That's really, sorry, go ahead.
Both internal and then hire the third party. And,
sure.
Our NPS is very high, like 93%, something like that, right?
That's really high.
And then we know that, okay, we have a good product. Now, next step is to test the business model around it.
Right. So even if the product works, how do we sell to somebody else? How do we make money from doing this, right?
It depends. For example, the AI part, that's purely B2B, right? So it's like, white labeling the solution that's worked for the bank to other customers.
Right.
So we create a small sales team. We go out and try to get the contract. It really happens like that, to get a contract, 1 to 5 customers, 10 customers, and then seeds from there. For the B2C customers, it's similar to how the fintech startup go from product market fit to monetization phase, right? At first, we didn't know what worked. At first, we try a lot of things. Can we monetize payment? Can we try to cross-sell some of the bank's products? Can we do subscription models? Even now, we're still testing some of it. But we started seeing some models work, and then we will, put the resource on scaling that business model.
Right. Do you still have a lot of interaction with senior management at KBank as you continue to develop more and more products?
We do. Both from the KBTG side, who is our technology provider and partner, right? But on the bank side as well, because as we are a tech company, right? We pride ourselves in knowing the technology, the customer experience well, but we rely on the banking expertise from the senior executives of the bank a lot. For example, if we want to launch a loan products, a credit cards products on our digital channel, then we talk to them.
Do you feel like that over time, their expectations of you and your team, of your business, have gotten actually higher and higher as you continue to succeed?
It shift, I would say higher, of course, but it shift in expectation as well. From early on in the innovation phase, people were happy if you can make a blast and then create a buzz in the market and you gain new customers. But now it's not about customers anymore, isn't it? Because you've invested a lot of money. It's become ROI. It become IRR. So as a maturity phase of innovation shift, the expectation changed.
But that means that you're succeeding at some level, which is kind of cool, right?
Level,
because as the expectations change into not just creating a buzz, but into creating ROI, which is more important, that's kind of cool. Okay. How did the customer design center and the focus that you talked to me about on UI and UX reflect the belief that the digital experience is where banks and insurers win, right? That experience matters.
Of course, definitely. I mean, if we be honest with ourselves, banking or financial business is a commodity business at some sense, right?
At some level, yeah.
Yeah, because we sell money, we sell trust. We don't sell car or like shampoo, right? So, the fundamental of loans or payments or like transfer money is the same thing. If you talk about utilities, so how do we differentiate from our customers, and we do believe that by understanding the customer needs like on a very very detailed level, and that what makes us differentiative.
Is it always about making things simpler, or can you also make things more fun?
Good question. We do both. Simpler and we call the simpler, sleek, and seamless. All those like brilliant basics, right? If you try our apps,
Yep.
And by simpler we mean app doesn't crash, it loads faster. The customer flow is simple. It takes you less time to do one task. So that's definitely the basic, brilliant basic that we need to compete.
Right.
But the fun part, like the creative part, is where we put a lot of thoughts on as well. I give you a fun example. We just launched a new, like, we thought it's like a quick gimmick on our mobile app, right?
Okay.
When you transfer money to someone, you just enter a number like 1,000 baht and then hit transfer, right? We embed a calculator on that input box, because we talk to customer and they say, when I share like split bills with my friends, sometimes I have to switch app from the mobile app to the calculator and calculate, how much I eat. We'll build that right into the mobile app. We thought it's like, just simple and fun and gimmick, but hundreds of thousands of customers start using it from like just a few weeks without any marketing.
So without even knowing it was there, it just pops up and they're like,
yes.
Hey, this is super useful.
Yes, that's just one example, right? We try to embed, like thoughts like this, ideas, by really listen to the customers and then, give them what they want.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yep.
Where do you think insurance can fit into KBank's digital mobile experience?
Yep. Insurance is definitely priority for this year, right? In my experience, 2-3 years ago, not just KBank but the whole industry was the competing field was in loans, right? But right now, both insurance and wealth, both protection and wealth technology overall has been a really big space for banks to compete on, because there are a couple of reasons, right? One is in the overall demographic in Thailand market is pretty much underinsured in general as well, and it's a space that has not been innovated enough in the past, and now not only us KBank but a lot of banks start to catch on and want to make a big push in the digital insurance space.
Do you get the sense as GDP per capita increases in Thailand pretty regularly, that as people acquire more things, that they're also more concerned about protecting those things?
Yes, I think it's a graduation, right? Once first you need to have an account, you have basic needs, you can do all the transactions, and then you have to have money, you have loans. But once you have pretty much couple of needs filled, then you start thinking about the next step, which is to protection and your wealth building, right? I would say another driving force is that because our and this is not from the customer perspective, but from the company perspective, because of right now the debt per GDP is high.
The what is high?
The household debt per GDP for Thailand is
high.
Is high, right?
I mean, so it's probably high, it's high everywhere in the world, but fair enough.
To grow the loan business, like even
right, it's harder. It's harder because the debt level is already high.
Yes, so banks start turning to like fee-based business, which is insurance and wealth more.
Interesting.
That's just how it works.
Okay, so with this laser focus on innovation, we've been talking about this for a while. How does all of that innovation translate into long-term customer value?
Can you say it again, please?
How does it translate into long-term customer value?
It's still,
right, because it's important, right? You mentioned before, right? Like the calculator. Is it a short-term gimmick, or it's an innovative product? It's a lot of fun, but then how does it add into the bank's long-term customer value, right? Because if they keep using it, then they're there more often.
Yeah, that's good question. And to be honest with you, Michael, the state of my innovation in my portfolio is still not yet the state to be able to quantify the LTV.
Yeah, I'm just curious what you think about it. Yeah,
but
I'm not asking for a number. I'm just curious what you think about it.
Got you. I think definitely once the customer become more sticky, right, and the bond, I would say the value that they perceive of us is not just transactional value. For example, features like the calculator, the pockets, or like what makes it fun and engaging with them helps them save money better, right? It's the same commodity product, but by using our app, by having the right feature that like match their needs, he or she can save money better, and then he or she have a tendency to stick with us longer. And then at the same time, when we start monetizing it, we can start like little by little, right? Like selling the financial products that match their needs. Of course, insurance is one big part of it, and it's and we work with Chubb as well in that regard.
Awesome. So before I let you go, we know Thailand is unique. We already talked about why, and that it's pretty far ahead of some other countries, particularly a lot of Western countries. To be fair, I just know it's true. What can they learn from Thailand or from the experience of the stuff that you've been building and some of your peers are building as well?
Oh, okay. I have direct experience with only 3 countries, right? But I think first of all, and based on my experience, every country is very different.
Yeah, for sure.
I traveled to Vietnam. We have business in Vietnam as well, right? Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, Japan. They all have different customer behavior, and I would say that learning the exact behavior for Thailand and how the digital banking of Thailand succeed might not apply
for sure
to the other country.
For sure, but the process applies, right?
Yes, but the process of not look beyond the financial industry, the process of really understanding a day life of a customers, what food delivery app they use, how do they shop, how do they go to like shopping mall, what do they use, what's their pain, and what are their pains and needs and gains in not only the financial side of things, is how we come up with a lot of innovations that I would say, and then invest a lot in not just technology, but the part of customers' understandings and the user experience, and that's I would say that's one of our biggest secret sauce.
I was going to say secret sauce.
Yep.
Chetaphan Siridanupath, a managing director at KBTG, a tech subsidiary of KBank. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you very
today.
much, Michael. It's my pleasure.